Good afternoon, and welcome to A Gathering Place, brought to you by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. We have a great show to look forward to today. We're going to be talking about how to survive as a multi-million dollar corporation during the time of coronavirus, and also looking towards our economy. What does that look like? Do we even know? And maybe we'll get some information, good information today. And we have three special guests who are with us today. And our first guest is Brunson Cooper of CORENIC Construction Group. And I'm going to bring him on and read his bio while we bring him. Hello, Brunson. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm fine, Marilyn. How are you?
Great, thank you. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for accepting my invitation. I've been bugging you for what, about 2 months now?
Family has some persuasive ways, but I'm happy to be
All
on.
right.
I'm happy to be a part of it. Definitely.
Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and read your bio for Cornick Construction. Brunson
All right.
Cooper is with Cornick Construction Group. He has established himself as a respected professional in the construction industry, has the managing director and owner of Cornick Construction, a general contractor and design build firm in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. He oversees the entire operation with a focus on business development. He serves on several boards, including the Prince George's County Chamber of Commerce. We like chambers of commerce, yeah, and the Washington, D.C. Economic Partnership. He and his company have received numerous awards, including the prestigious 40 Under 40, the Washington Business Journal's Top 25 Minority Business Leader, and is a recipient of the Top 100 MBE Awards. An active member of his community, both in the D.C. area and his hometown of Hemingway, South Carolina, Brunson donates to various nonprofit organizations, and he actually just did something recently home. We're going to talk about. We'll make sure we'll get that in. And when he came back home and donated to his community, he holds a BS in civil engineering from North Carolina A&T and is the proud husband and father to his wife and two children. And we want to make sure that we tell them. Make sure you say that Marilyn said hi.
Oh, I will. Definitely will.
Very good. So we also have with us today Dr. Lucy Reuben. Hello, Dr. Reuben. How are you?
Hello, glad to be here again.
Very good. Glad to have you here today also. And she's a repeat. She's a repeat guest and has lots of information to share with us. And also we have Dr. John Cole. Hello, Dr. Cole. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Nice to be here. Nice to see a guest.
Yes, and I understood that we celebrated your birthday yesterday.
Isn't that something? Time has a habit of moving.
Happy birthday.
Yes, it does. But once again, we say happy birthday one more time. How about that?
Thank
So
you
happy
so much.
birthday. So we're gonna dive in. We're gonna ask Brunson some questions about his business, how he got started, and we'll roll from there. And we'll also talk about the economy now and how it's impacting his business. But Brunson, tell us, how did you get started with Cornick Construction Group?
Okay. I'll give you the short version.
Okay.
I know a lot of people have different stories on how they went and came into business, but mine was is that I used to work for a the largest general contractor in the United States. I actually went to work for them right out of college and worked 16 and a half years for them. But during those years, I found out that really there was, I saw a better way for my future than they were looking. So we didn't see eye to eye on my future. So I started, and after my first Passover for a promotion, I
Mm.
actually created Cornick Construction. Satisfied me for a little bit in '09, and then turned around the next year, passed over once again. So, and
Mm.
then so you
Mm.
see the pattern. So what
Yes.
happened is now, not to mention that I was the top performer. I actually brought in more money than my executives above me, and basically was making the money. They would come to me at the end of the year and say, "Hey, we need to make our goals. What money do you have?" So,
Mm.
uh, but they could come to me then. But anyway, to make a long story short, I was, I got, three strikes and you're out. So basically, I started the company going. Now, granted, I made sure that it was very clear that it was a separate company from my previous company that I was working with. No crossover, nothing like that. But grew relationships. And during this time that I was out, I actually had a lot of people. That was one reason that I started, was because I was being passed over. I wanted to create a new pathway for myself. The other one was when I was out working with and joining organizations like the African American Real Estate Professionals. They actually told me, said, hey, you know, you should have your own business. We need people like you to actually run their own business, and for in the Black community, we need more Black construction companies. So lo and behold, started it. It kept moving. We actually in '09 didn't do any work. 10 did about 20,000 worth of work, $20,000 worth of work, and then 20, I'll say 2011, a million and a half. 2012, when I left Turner and turned around and went full time running the company, we did about 2.5 million. To recently, we're a little over a $40 million company.
And
So
that's
yes.
$40 million in revenue a year.
Yes, that's $40 million in revenue a year.
Well,
And Maryland,
congratulations.
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I would be, and it's funny. I kind of, have to make sure I think about these things when I talk about CORENIC Construction. Is my main company, but just to let everyone know, I have two other businesses. One business is a commercial painting company called Century Painting, and last year we did over $2 million worth of work in commercial painting. And then I've also joined an organization, a franchise called The Joint, and it's a chiropractic franchise. So I joined with a classmate of mine from college, and we basically, and a frat brother of mine, and so the three of us started, and we're actually getting locations here in Maryland. One of the
So
first
you
actually locations up here. Yeah.
so you have diverse streams of revenue.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of
Yes.
the things we
Yes.
hear about when we're entrepreneurs, and I
Yes.
totally understand and appreciate having multiple companies, because I
Yes.
think I am, in a couple of weeks I'll be up to five, four
There
or
you go.
five. I have to I have to remember that.
Oh
So I
yeah.
told, and I actually understand your path to starting your own business, and unfortunately we hear that all too frequently in the African American community, and I'll just put that out there, that we put in a lot of the work and we make a lot of money for someone else,
Hmm.
and we're too often passed over and not given the opportunities that we are seeking. So bravo to you that you stepped out and started your own company.
Thank
So
you
so
very
tell
much.
us a little bit more about, it's good to hear that you hit $40 million in
Yes.
revenue. Tell us a little bit more of the hurdles that you faced, that you could talk about, and how you overcame those hurdles.
Well, I'll tell you from the beginning. It's funny. I'll tell you, the first time I left my previous company, I started to work, go after opportunities and bid on opportunities with clients that I used to work with before, and gain new clients. And I was fortunate enough to have good relationships that basically transferred with me out of my previous company. It would be funny to say that I came across people that would not recognize that I was actually the owner of the company. So,
I'm sure.
so one previous client asked me. I took him to, we entertained business development. Took him out, and he basically said, What did CORENIC Construction do to get you to leave Turner Construction?" I'm like,
Wow.
hmm. so
Wow.
so needless to say, I actually, didn't say anything. And after a while, when people kept coming by, where we were at a basketball game, people kept coming by and saying, "Congratulations on your new endeavor." And he recognized that I was the owner of the company. So I would tell you, the struggles are there. People, having a minority prime general contractor. And I'll give a little bit about the construction company. We are a
Mhm.
prime general contractor. We don't self-perform. We actually build car dealerships. We've built dealerships like Lamborghini, Rolls Royce, McLaren, high-end BMW dealerships. We've also done schools. We've also done commercial office spaces. We just finished two Starbucks locations, so we're doing numerous Starbucks locations. We're approved by McDonald's. We're going to do some McDonald's, and we're just spreading out and making sure that we take on as many opportunities as we can, because we want to make sure that we grow, but we grow the right way. So it did take some years, obviously, but we're there and we're competing in the industry and moving forward. Now, granted, as a minority-owned company, yes, I started out saying, "Hey, number one, I am a great company first." Right. But then, I kind of didn't want to get certifications. And I said, because I felt that I can compete on the same level. I can compete on the same level. Well, needless to say, I needed to get certifications. And I will tell you, one from one stance is from a client perspective. If someone wants to utilize me and has a pathway to utilize me and it's through that certification, then why would I not afford them the chance to use that to get to me easily and sole source to me? So I went and got all my certifications and I utilized them when needed. But we also compete on a high level with a lot of other GCs that are probably 3 times as old as us and a lot larger than us. But our key thing is that we focus on service and service and service. But to finish answering your question, I've actually gone into rooms that I've had older white project managers that work for me, and they would call them Brunson. So that would be
Mm,
very, very funny.
mm,
You would
I
mm,
don't.
imagine.
mm, mm.
I don't think they look like Brunsons. I don't
No,
know. That's
no,
just that's
no.
just
So
my
it's
opinion.
there's definitely with some there's definitely some business hurdles out there, just
Mhm.
people just not recognizing. And then it really showed that there's not a lot of companies in that arena like mine. And I owe it to everyone else. I talk there's a few companies that came ahead of me, like Guilford Construction, Russell, and Smoot Construction. These are large companies, and they broke through and actually started doing all this work. And now they went through that door. So now I realize it's up to me to step through that door and build something larger beyond that door. So that's
Very good.
that's my goal.
Hmm.
That's my goal.
So when you say they broke through that door, is that
Mhm.
in your geographic area, or are these national companies we're talking about?
Smoot is national. Russell is national. Russell's out of Atlanta, and Smoot is based out of Columbus. And Guilford is based out of here in DC. And following in Guilford's footsteps, he did a lot of State Department work, overseas, international. So now I'm looking to do some State Department work
All
overseas,
right.
and I'm consulting with him as a mentor. So I am not afraid of to ask questions. I will ask questions. I'm a sponge. I learn from everyone. So I'll take that as anyone that I can speak to and get some information is to help me. Whether it's good or bad, I know I can utilize it, to make the right decision on my part.
Very good. That's very good advice, as a matter of fact. And just before I ask John and Lucy a couple of questions, or let them ask a couple of questions, I want to take a station break and remind everyone that you are watching A Gathering Place, brought to you by the Galagichi Chamber of Commerce. And if you have any questions of our guests, please drop them in the comments section, and we will try to get to all the questions that we can. So, Lucy or John, Dr. Cole, Dr. Reuben, do you have any questions of Brunson?
Yes, I'm sure we both do because this sounds like a very interesting story and a very encouraging one as well. And I also want to salute you on a personal level for giving acknowledgement of those who went before you and encouraged and inspired your own success. But before we get into the details of that bottom line type of success, someone, my business partner, always said to me many years ago that in order to be a good manager, you have to be a good person. And so I'm going to give him credit for that and ask you to tell us, because I understand there's much to tell, but just tell us briefly good things that you've been doing for others, especially in this environment.
Oh, let's see. I guess Marilyn alluded to it. I actually just returned. Well, I'll take it back. To answer that question, yes, you have to be a good person, and I'll tell you, I had good parents. So, so I'll tell you, I learned from my parents, and one, his name was Brunson Cooper Jr. My father, who has been a great mentor in my life, and through this, I always thought about it. Here we are in this time, and I will always reflect on the things that my father used to tell me, and those words and those statements would all actually guide me even now. And what happened was I actually said, during this, I thought about it. I would call back down. I talked to one of my cousins every week, and I said, what would my dad be doing right now? And I know he would be helping his community. He was someone that actually had a farm that would grow vegetables and give to the elderly and drop them off for free. He just do
Hmm.
that. That was just in his heart. So I thought about it and I said, I called my brother. I said, look, I want to do something for my hometown. And I said, okay. He said, hey, well, let's think about this. He connected with Low Country Food Bank. And I actually, we set up the call and we talked and we said, well, what can we do to do something for Hemingway, South Carolina, where I'm from? And we actually took a semi truckload of food back on June the 6th, and we gave out 800 boxes of food and 800 gallons of milk. And we gave out to our community. And I want to tell you, it was just the most, it's not even the monetary thing, it's the just a good feeling to help others. And I can't remember the exact saying, is that too much is given, much is required, right? I believe that's it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's the way I look at it. And for me to give back to my hometown that way, not to mention we do give scholarships to my hometown every year to a high school graduate from my church and from the high school. But this was something that just to help our family, friends and family down there in this time of craziness. I mean, right now I call it craziness because I feel like we're in a basically a horror movie. So it's just like no one knows what's going on. Here we are fighting this invisible enemy, and unfortunately, people that look like us are the ones that's dying the most. And and it just for us to, I know how, just back home where a lot of people from my hometown actually work in Myrtle Beach at hotels and stuff. And with them being closed, no income coming in, I wanted to make sure that they had that. So, and actually, just stay tuned. We will be doing another one. I promised them that I would do another one before the end of the year just to support them in that endeavor. Yeah.
And I'm volunteering. Don't
There you
forget,
go.
I'm
Oh,
volunteering. Don't
I'm gonna
forget.
hold you to
All
it.
right, that's fine.
Oh
That's
yeah.
fine. I want
Oh
you
yeah.
to hold me to it.
Oh yeah.
So now that we're kind of going into with the coronavirus and what's happening, how have you adjusted as a business
Whew.
during this time of the coronavirus?
So, as a business, I can tell you this is that first and foremost, construction was deemed essential during this. So, we actually continued to work. Now, my business is made up of, we have roughly 35 employees. And in the office, we have 15 superintendents in the field, and then the rest are in the office. So, as you can imagine, everyone in my office automatically went to telework. Now, fortunately, you look at my website, we try to stay on the top, be innovative and stay at the cutting edge of work. All our employees have laptops. All our employees we had a system that works with Zoom, so we could telework and do video conference calls. So we immediately went into that. And actually, as we were preparing, because as you know, we were giving you know real time information. And as soon as we started a plan, that same day we would have to implement that plan. So it was very, really quick. But I give props to my people that work for me, that they were staying on top of it and they were supporting me. And really, my general manager, he and I, we basically just would do every day. We would actually talk about what we can do for COVID. How can we plan? How can we pivot and still bring in income? Now, our job site stayed open. Our superintendent still went in. We bought PPE gear. We spent thousands of dollars on PPE gear, personal protection equipment, and we spent more money on additional computer resources. We also just even recently we've also utilized and bought a scanner, face scanner, to do temperature checks as you come into the office, along with making sure that everyone wears a mask. And we are looking to get back into work and start. We have a back to work plan. Up here, we're kind of on the downward turn, and I understand down there you're on the upward turn. So please be careful. But we actually went into just this crisis mode. We have conference calls every morning with my management team. Communication. I tell everyone right now, communication amongst your team members during this time is a must. You cannot over communicate, because if you think that you're going to operate the same way as you were operating before this, you got another thing coming. This thing, just people are scared. People
Mhm.
are some people aren't. Some people are not taking it seriously, and you really have to educate everyone. So during this time, we actually we do conference calls every morning with the management. We do every week we do a call with the entire company, and we make sure that they understand what they're doing. We're doing A and B days back to office now. We're doing social distancing. We have signs up. Again, mass hand sanitizing stations. Even when we have a conference call and everyone's in the office, everyone's doing it from the computer like this. I cannot tell you how many of these calls I've been doing, but I like to see people. I'm that type of person. I like to see you, make sure that you're good, you're alive, you're talking, you're going well. I don't like to see it when your name is up there. It's just a thing for me. It's just like I want to be able to touch and make sure that person is doing well. It's for me and it's for them. Yeah. So,
So how has your team responded? I mean, have you? I know you're what you've done for them, but how have they responded to what's going on with coronavirus and to the company? How
yeah.
the company has responded?
So in addition, I've had some superintendents that actually some I say seasoned superintendents that known me since I used to work at Turner, and they came over and worked with me. So I'll say about half the company used to work there, and these guys actually I was appreciative that they actually said that you kept us working through this time. We actually kept people, every employee working throughout the entire, this entire time. They've been gainfully employed. We went out and got our PPP loan. We actually got our EIDL loan also. And not to be, if anybody has pride and say don't, and they're not getting it. And what I will say right now, for my African American business owners, I think the 30th is the last day. Please go out and get your PPP loan if you have not gotten it. Okay? This, in essence, is a grant that you can utilize for your business. If you're moving along and you're paying people, you should actually utilize this money to support that. If you can see that all these big companies are doing it, then why shouldn't you? So that's that. I mean, why shouldn't you? So that's the thing. So we got the money. Our employees are happy that they're keeping, and working and continues to work, and that and that they still have a job, and we're still actually working and bidding on projects. Some have been slowed down. We have had COVID cases on our job, not our employees, but subcontractors. Whereas every job that has that, we have to in turn sanitize the job immediately. And being that we are practicing social distancing, we're able to return to work. So that we would do our sanitizing and we're able to return the next day. So that's we've gone and researched this back and forth. We stayed up with the CDC. I think that we're just trying to stay in front of everything until this until whenever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
until whenever.
yeah,
Yeah, and I applaud you for your forward thinking and being proactive in going and getting those PPEs and following the guidelines, because I think a lot of what's happening now is there's so much misinformation out there, there's
yes.
so much confusion, and people not wearing the mask is actually going to impact the economy
Hmm.
adversely and
Hmm.
drag this out longer than it should be. So it's good to
Yeah.
know that you are being proactive in doing the best things for your employees and
Hmm.
also for your customers.
Yep.
Ultimately, I mean, as a
Yeah.
customer, I've
Yep.
already decided some restaurants I'm not going back into, for example, because
Yep.
they're not being proactive with the mask wearing or encouraging others. And they're losing business. So
Those
it's good
same
to know.
people, the
Yeah,
same
go ahead.
people, and this is where I take it, is the same people that don't want to wear a mask. And you've heard it, that it travels through just speaking and not being, right across from standing in front of people or 6 foot distances. Those are the same people that want the economy to get back into place. So how does that work when you're not following the things that will help you get back into the economy, get back into, motion? So it goes hand in hand. I can't see
Yes.
why it can't go hand in hand. As a business owner, and I'm talking to those business owners out there, you should go to the extreme. And then, as you go to the extreme, you're showing that protection for your people that work for you, and for the employee, I mean, for the customers that actually come to visit you. All right. And, there shouldn't be no shame in that. And we have business owners and entrepreneurs, we're cocky people. So, so we actually, you should not have a problem with what people are thinking and saying. But at the end of the day, you want to get that income going and flowing again. So this is the thing that gets us back to it.
Yes, yes, it does. So, John and Lucy, you both are economists. Do you have any thoughts about what's going on right now regarding the economy and how small businesses or corporations are approaching it, and especially when it comes to the lack of we we know there's a huge difference in people not wearing masks. So, have you any thoughts regarding that?
I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to
Okay,
defer to Dr. Cole because he hasn't had a chance to ask some. But I've got some
okay.
questions because we've got a good resource, a successful business person who can lend some insights. Dr. Cole, you go on.
Well, I just want to congratulate you so much, Mr. Cooper, for all of the wonderful work, and I know it hasn't been easy.
Oh no.
And I love the DC metro area. But
Yes.
if you can operate up there, you know how to manage any political setting in which they could put you.
Yes,
So
sir. Yes,
you're
sir.
certainly preparing yourself for some great things. Do want to say Aggie Pride. It is so
Aha.
good to
Aggie
hear
pride.
that you were there. I was for a little time with the business school
Okay. Wow.
in there, but not subsequent to your graduation. So it's always wonderful to raise the visibility and the image and the profile
Hmm.
of the HBCUs and the wonderful people who get there and graduate from there.
Yes.
And I am so happy to see that you make that an item of
Yes.
distinction for you
Yes.
as you go along. But I do have two or three little questions that I'd like to ask.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that we used to note up there, and I don't know whether we have more opportunities like these coming along, is I used to note the absence of general contractors. You're a great man to be a general contractor because there were some hurdles that I knew would present to the general contractor so that it could keep minorities, especially as quote unquote subcontractors.
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to hear you speak about that because it seems to me that from what I used to see there, the general contractor was a guy, a firm that had a whole lot more control over the financial dimension of
Yes,
the
sir.
business than the subcontractor, and the subcontractor almost could not focus on growth. So I'd like to hear you speak
Yes.
about that challenge and how you got around that challenge to be a general contractor. I just want to congratulate you to be on being a general contractor. That is just a wonderful distinction, and
Thank
I
you.
just want to congratulate you on that and listen to you speak about what were the hurdles related to that and
Okay.
the advantages of being a general contractor.
Yes, sir. So, I'll tell you this: after coming out of A&T and getting the job with Turner Construction, that's what I knew. So I knew how to be a general contractor. I was trained to be a general contractor. I will give Turner their props on training. They gave great training. So when I decided to leave out, there was nothing else but to become a general contractor. And by being a general contractor, that meant I had to have that relationship directly with the client and the person that held the checkbook. Basically, I was the person that would give them that turnkey project. I wasn't the subcontractor like the drywall guy, the painter, the let's see who else, any of all the trades, electrician, plumbers, all of those. Now, in the past, you would think that, yes, I agree, there is the general contractors, minority general contractors are a great minority in this business. Okay, there's not many of them to the point where our own people don't recognize us as being. I could tell you, if I had a business that said someone give me $1 for every time somebody said, well, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a
Oh,
general contractor. No, but no, what you do? Do you do the drywall? Do you do the paint? Do you do this? Do you do that? No, I am the prime GC. I performed everything. And even when I show pictures that you see on my website, these
hmm.
projects that we've had, I'm the guy that did turnkey for the owner, contracted all the subcontractors, brought them together for pricing, and gave it to the owner and actually performed that work with a superintendent on site, managed the entire piece from A to Z, and turned it over to them for them to occupy. So by, yes, hurdles upon hurdles upon hurdles. Now, I will tell you is that relationships matter very much so. I've had great relationships when I came out of Turner, and fortunately to be able to work in that level, to come out of the level and be able to work in the private industry. We do mostly private work. The government, normally a minority contractor would have to start off in the government first, because that would be the side where they would say, hey, we have to have a percentage, we have to meet a goal. So obviously, we would have most opportunities there, because the government would say, hey, you need to meet this minimum of 35% or 40%. So then, but the problem is that that's all they see us as, meeting that goal, right? That's the problem. We have to show them that it's not about meeting a goal. It's about that we have a better, we actually can perform better than most contractors that are complacent out there, that are just doing work for years, right? So for me, I've told people recently, like, look, my company is totally diverse. I have I have every nationality at my company. And the reason I have every nationality at my company is because I have the best people. That's what I want. Best people, right? So we actually go up against these other companies, and we're able to compete, and clients are repeat clientele. We have, say, 80% repeat clientele, because the only reason it's not 100% is because we're adding that 20% every year of new clients that we're trying to add on. Now, the subcontractors, I will tell you, the rules still have to change that will help the general contractors, because they always see us as subcontractors. Much to the reason, that's why I created a paint company, because we didn't really have a minority paint company that could compete on a commercial level in this area. So I said, you know what? We need an African American paint company, and I specifically say African American paint company, that's a minority paint company that can compete on this level. So that's why I created that company. And because, and not to mention, everyone would still ask me, hey, well, do you do this? Do you do that? So I said,
Mhm.
you know what? I don't have time to train you on this all the time. What I'll do is I'll just pass on this paint company to you and give you this paint company. Oh yeah, well, we do paint. So now I'm just trying to beat them at the game that I'm being
Mhm.
placed in, right?
Mhm.
So it's really just adding, the resource of thinking about how we can, manage our business and grow, in this crazy economy and this crazy time. It's even harder for us, because now people are just going for who they know, right? They're using it as, okay, well, I'm only going to use the person I've used, before that, because right now it's hard times. Now it's even harder for us, because we've been struggling to get those opportunities. Now it's even harder,
Mhm.
because they're going to stay, it's just, I would say that the industry, is predominantly white, and the industry has always been in real estate and construction. So what's happening is that, and it's just by nature, you're going to go into the person you've been dealing with for years, right?
Mhm.
Not the new company that just comes in the door that you haven't, quote unquote, proven themselves yet.
Thank you.
So we're trying to change that, and we're trying to create more relationships, no matter who they are in the industry. Yes, we're working with. There's a vast amount of real estate, African American real estate developers up here that we're working with, and we're growing. I mean, we have a tight knit community that they will call me up if there's a office space. They would recommend me to a client, and I mean, the reality is that we have to support each other, and in order to stay, and especially during this time, in order to stay and make sure, and then we have to do what we say we're going to do. Let's be clear, it's not just about supporting and
Mhm.
giving a person an opportunity. It's actually,
Mhm.
the other side is, do what you said you're going to do for that person that's supporting you, because that's the other problem that we have, is that we don't we will say we're able to do this job, and then we're not able to do it. So
Mhm.
we got to do what we say we're going to do. And that's one of my models. I tell every subcontractor, especially minority subcontractor, I tell them off top to say, I'm hard on you. And I said, because I just need you to do well, because if you do well, that means I'm doing well. That's just that,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
So I actually am harder on my, and it's only to make them actually say, hey, even when you're working for me, when you go work for someone else, you're gonna already I'm telling you what you should be doing correctly, so that if you're working for someone else, you're doing it right, and then you can show out and you can do, and they'll be like, oh, well, you're doing this, yeah, we're doing this, we normally do this. That's what everyone wants to see, and that's how we get more and more opportunities. Yep.
I'm glad you mentioned that about supporting each other, because actually that's one of the reasons I started the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, because it formalizes that networking relationship. It
Mm-hmm.
formalizes supporting each other, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what it is.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to get the bigger corporations to subsidize the mom and pops, because there are a lot of mom and pops out there,
They
but
are.
they need that support. They need that education. They need that access
Yes.
to resources so that they can grow and be sustainable. So I'm glad that you
Oh, yeah.
mentioned that very much. Very good. Thank you. John, you said you have two or three questions. So
Go for it.
what's your
Well,
next question?
well, I'm not going to make this one too long, but
Mm.
there's an area that I have a particular interest in,
Okay.
which is as a general contractor. How do you characterize the insurance market when you show up and they say, "Are you the general?" I mean, what's the insurance market?
So, are we talking? So we're talking on site, like bonding, insurance,
Yes,
and
yes,
general liability.
yes, yes.
We're our bonding is again talking with someone and listening because coming out our first back. I'll tell this quick story to get to your answer is that I met a surety person. Her name was Joanne Brooks, and Joanne Brooks actually told me when I told her. She said, "Do you have bonding?" And this was when I first came out. I said, I don't need bonding. I'm a good. I do private work. I'm a good contractor. I do private work. I don't need bonding. She said, you need to get bonding. And I'm like, oh. So this African American lady, she told me, she said, look, get bonding. And then I researched it. I understood, and now we're at 20 million per with a $35 million aggregate,
Oh,
right? And
wonderful.
so what's happening is not only that. Now you know what that means. A lot of businesses, as a general contract, other business doesn't realize what that means. If that means that financial, if someone's able to bond me at that level, then my finances are good.
Mm-hmm,
So it tells another story for my business.
mm-hmm,
It automatically tells the owner that if I can
mm-hmm.
bond that, then I'm not a business that's going to go out of business,
Mhm.
right? I'm not on the edge, because if
Mm-hmm.
I said I only got a, if I didn't do my work, say I didn't do my research and then build my bonding ability and said, oh, I don't have bonding, but maybe I'm in a good state, maybe I'm great, maybe I got good finances and everything, but they're going to say, well, you can't get bonded. And then, so not only is that an issue when if I said I never thought of it, but it's also an issue because I didn't do it, right? And they
Mhm.
can't tell that I am actually financially solvent, right? I can actually, go out and because you have to have capital, right? So that's why I have, I'm able to have the bonding I have, and not to mention I don't do a lot of bonded jobs, but I still have that bonding ability. So that
Mm-hmm.
if a bonded job comes up or one of these bonded jobs come up, I'm able to actually bond it with no problem. Especially government, and usually government work is utilizes bonding. State,
Right,
local, and federal
right,
utilize
right.
bonding, but every now and then there's an owner that utilize private owner that utilizes bonding. But for the most part, the bonding market, the first time my bonding person, they met me, I took them to my BMW job, and they looked at me like I was like, "You're doing this?" I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah. And then so I have travelers as my that backs me. And
Okay,
everybody that knows travelers is the largest in the industry, and they're
right.
the most conservative in the industry when it comes to who they lend their money out to and who they have underneath them. So that also speaks volumes because the large companies use travelers also. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. And that's actually one of the problems I'm finding down here, Brunson, with construction companies and minority companies who are seeking government contracts.
Hmm.
Where we can let them know that the opportunity is there, but a lot of them are not bonded. So
Correct.
they're not even in the circle to get the opportunity
Yeah.
because that lack of bonding. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. That was a very good question, John. People really need to understand that and know that.
Mm-hmm,
Well,
Mhm.
one of the things I think that I don't know if you're going to ask this, but one of the things I was going to say was that the advice for someone that when preparing in this economy, it's a support system, right? So you got to have a good support system, and your support system is a good accountant. A good banker relationship, a good financial advisor, a good bonding company, a good lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and a good HR representative. So all of those count, right? And I will tell you, which was something innovative that my general manager, James Morrow, brought to the table for me. We actually had an event, and we had all of those because remember, you're their client, so
Mhm.
you're their client. You know, yes, the audacity to bring them all together at once. That's what I did. I brought them all together at once, and I wanted them to hear all at once what we were doing with this company and let them meet each other so they knew and how they could talk about their experiences with me and stuff so they can actually get a different perspective from someone else, and having them all in one room together and discussing that, and my company being the focus of all of these people actually took my company to another level for support, right? Because when I want to talk to my banker about getting a line of credit, when I want to talk with my financial advisor about where I'm going to take this, when I dealing with my accountant, they need to know, they need to be able to speak. My bonding company who fights with my accountant because my accountant wants to lower
Mm-hmm.
save me money on taxes. My bonding company wants me to pay those taxes. So it's always these different things, right? And then my lawyer
Mhm.
that keeps me safe, right? And then my HR person that keeps my employees happy and keeps my company happy also. So those are the things that I actually like. That's one thing, and you could probably do something right now with one of these virtual calls and stuff, and get them all on the line. I mean, think about it. Why wouldn't you do it? Uh, You know,
Yeah.
why not?
Mm-hmm.
Why not do it for yourself? Because you're their client, and they should want
Mm-hmm.
to get on the phone call
Mm-hmm.
and be able to meet. So I think
Yeah.
that's something that everyone should do for their business.
And as I
Very good.
take that as a jumping off position, and I think that's very important. You've said some very important things, and I'm glad you brought up the PPE, the Paycheck Protection Program, because that was one of the questions I wanted to ask how that impacted your firm. You answered that. But going forward, we
Yes.
know that the construction industry in most states has been considered essential. It's primarily an outdoor, although you do primarily interior
Yes.
construction, and your website has shown some just wonderful and
Thank you.
interiors in a variety of places and spaces.
Yeah.
But as we look at how the business environment is having to change, both in the near term and in the longer term, how do you reassess risk and how do you reassess opportunities, particularly for your interior general contracting, and your painting is also interior primarily.
Hmm.
What are some of the risks that you have to reassess, and how do you reassess those? And what are some of the new opportunities in
Yes.
the new environment?
Yes. So the new environment. People it's fortunate enough that people are still building spaces. Now granted, the design of these spaces are changing because you aren't able to really get as many people in a space than you would have before. I've built spaces where people are sitting 2 to 3 feet apart from each other, and obviously you can't have that now. Now I'm looking at where some clients are looking to expand their spaces and look for more space because they need people in the office. They can't do as much telework as possible. Coming from just having different entry ways and changing things like that for entryways. Um, when you look at it from the construction side, for even doing work, and it's kind of funny. I always say that, yeah. When I tell people like I'm in construction, they always look at, oh, you're in construction. I'm like, yeah, I'm in construction. It's great. It's like one of the best things you could ever be in, best business. That's
Mhm.
why it's that perception of construction that people just don't recognize, that there are people that are painters that make six figures a year. Okay, they don't recognize that. But the end of the day, we go into a site. They look at us as, when we manage the site, my superintendents, they actually, every person has to get checked as coming into the site with a thermometer. Every person has to wear a mask. We actually, at one point, when they said on the news that it comes in on your feet, we were spraying the feet with Clorox. Okay. So we had these stations where you come in and we had to hand sanitize, take and then check. And then also we just implemented, before 90 minutes before you even come to the site, you have to fill out a form that says that you don't have a fever, you don't have this, you don't have that. So it's a lot of extra time and money that's being now. Who do we attribute that cost to? Right? As a general contractor, even if we have a case and we have to clean the site, the owners are saying we're not paying for it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, this is the cost of doing business. This is an unforeseen condition. You want the job site to keep moving, but yet you don't want to pay for this. So they're pushing back. We're pushing back. We're in the middle because we have subcontractors that actually, now we're splitting it with the subcontractors. So it is a cost to us, additional cost. The PPE gear is additional cost. The clients, I will tell you, some of them, the work that's come up, we stayed steady. We're still steady. I think that the opportunities are changing or slowing down, or maybe I would say the opportunities, people are like wondering whether they should go into a open space as opposed to a confined space. And then you have other ones that are saying, we want more of offices. We don't want cubicles. We just want offices. And I'm like, wow. So now we're actually going, because you can go close your door and you can take off your mask as opposed to being outside in the open general population. Your pantry areas, they're changing the pantry areas to where they're just open spaces as opposed to walking into a confined space. So it is good for the bottom line, some of it, but then other stuff is costing us money as we're doing it. My biggest thing right now is maintaining throughout the rest of this year and continuing and then take it for next year. Maintaining on opportunities. The government has actually talked about, new opportunities coming in. They aren't back in the office at all. We've actually had a government site that shut down at the beginning of this, and then in turn they open it back up and say, well, you guys can go because we're not going to be there. And I'm like, okay. And so it's a little different. They kind of treat contractors as, like, look, we're taking that risk. You guys won't come to the office, but we can't. So, but it's hard because you want to make sure your people stay safe. And you want to make sure that, I look at it that every employee that I have is really, I look at them as like, I have a responsibility, right? And I have a responsibility to make sure that they stay employed and they stay safe. So it's on the top of our list. We continue to discuss it and stay ahead of it. I'm not, I can't say there's a crystal ball for what's coming next in construction, but as long as they keep saying that we can do new work or we can bid on and we win work and we're able to be in the space and practice social distancing, I think we'll be fine throughout the rest of this year.
And just to follow up on that, how do you use your well thinking and your innovation to impact your strategy in that regard?
Well, I tell you, I can't take it. I can't claim to say I have it all by myself. I would say that my team helps me. I consult with my team on what they are hearing and what they're seeing out in the field. And then, I sit down with my general manager and we actually, we talk about what can happen next. We actually, we're saying mask at 100% of the time in the office. Not many people are doing that. We're saying we're getting, as I mentioned earlier, we're getting a kiosk that come in when you come in the door that looks at your face and can not only tell the person who's coming in and tell them to wear a mask, and if they have a temperature, alert the office manager that they can't come in. I mean, these are the things that we're trying to stay ahead of so that we actually work, because I will say that 50-50, there's work. People that have worked from home have been more productive in some cases, and in other cases they haven't been. So those are the two things that I would say has been working for us.
If I might,
yes.
Can you hear me, Marlon?
Yes, we can hear you.
If I might, Dr. Reuben, were you finished?
I could go on, but we're going to
Okay. Let me just quickly jump into one issue here.
Mm-hmm.
Many times, minority-owned businesses, especially in the African American community, we're worried about capitalization.
Yes.
What does it mean to be adequately capitalized? Now, you've presented some things, and I just would like you to address that issue through the two things that you put on the table that I believe would be very informative to any of the minority businesses.
Okay. Okay.
On the one hand, earlier on, you said that you started the business the first year you generally had pittance, no real revenues. The second year you had about 20 or 40,000. The
Yeah.
third year, and then you finally broke loose and went full
Yes.
time.
Yes, sir.
So that there is something about capitalization that is going on in there behind the scenes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then the second thing that you said, which I want to connect to this, is you said, don't come to the game halfway prepared to play. Come with a lawyer, come with an accountant, come
Yep.
with the right array of support people
Yes.
so that you can really be on the playing field, not out by the gate seeing if you can jump in for free or something like that.
Yeah.
So those two things speak on the one hand to capital adequacy, it seems to me, for a business that has or plans to have some kind of scale, some kind of scalability. And it might be in certain industries, it might be, but coming to the game when you're not fully prepared for that game is probably a statement about your understanding of the capital that is required for that particular activity. And I'd like you to speak a little bit. I don't know, I'm connecting
No,
these,
no.
so
Well, I'll tell you. So when I first started the company, I didn't take a paycheck. Now I was fortunate enough to take a pay. I was fortunate enough still working. But I reinvested every dime, every single dime. And I will tell you, until I came out in 2012, that's when I actually started paying myself, gave myself a paycheck. And then I listened to my financial advisor. It's like how much I would pay myself, and then how much did I own in my name, as opposed to in the business, right? That is a write-off before tax dollars. Before tax dollars is key, right? So because things that you acquire, like say for instance, if my simple thing is acquiring your vehicle through the business as opposed to acquiring it after tax dollars where you pay for it on your own, as opposed to being a company vehicle, it's still your vehicle, right? But you're paying for it at before tax dollars as opposed to after tax dollars. So that allowed me to start gaining capital. I needed to, make sure that I had enough money that would basically pay my payroll for a certain period of time. So I actually just I didn't take money out of the business. I mean, I really just kept money in the business from year to year. And I listened to my financial advisor, I listened to my accountant, and I made sure that I was able to acquire cash, because cash is king, and keep it in the business. And that allowed me to, when I went out to, when I realized I needed to go to the bonding person, they were like, oh, well, you have this much in the bank. Like, oh, yeah, okay. So and really, you don't have to. I guess when I always tell myself, I look at goals, and my goals are way beyond what, and those goals, I see these goals far out there. It's like, okay, I know I can achieve these, right? But then I have intermediate goals. And these intermediate goals are the ones where people, they now see me at now having these intermediate goals done. And people are like, oh, you're doing all this stuff. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You don't know what I have. I still have a lot more to do. I still have a lot more that I need to accomplish, not to be greedy or anything like that, but I'm not going to be complacent either. Okay. And I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, well, I'm good now and I don't need to do any more in this industry, or I'm good now, I don't need to do any more support in my community. I'm good now. Why do that? Utilize the position that you're in to grow and continue to grow. And that's what's kept me from the beginning. All I did was keep the money in, keep the money, turn the money over. Even if it's a small project, I would keep it in the business, pay the business first, then pay myself afterwards, right? I actually would pay my employees too first. And, believe it or not, people don't recognize is that even when we were getting ready for this beginning of this COVID, my first thing is like, okay, I'm not going to give myself a paycheck. I'm not giving myself a paycheck. And my general manager was like, what? And I was like, yeah. I said, I just want to make sure that I don't, I want to make sure that people understand that this is, I believe in this business enough to make sure that I don't need to pay. Now, granted, I'm fine, but I want to make sure that my employees are taken care of and everything. This was before the PPP loan, everything, because, and who knew what was going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Mhm.
it's all about making sure that you have that viable business. And some people hurt their own business by the decisions that they make. They take
Mhm.
money out. They don't put the money in there. They don't let the money grow. I talk about banks. I have my money in, and that's it. I had to recognize, I was like, wait a minute, I don't have my money in a black bank. I have my money in a black bank now. Industrial Bank, Doyle Mitchell, I'm in there. And I talk to these gentlemen and I listen to them. And I actually go and speak to them and ask for them a little bit of their time just to listen, and the stuff that I get from them I utilize in my business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of people, for me, I'm always going to learn. I always have something to learn from any and everyone. When I go speak at a school and I speak to the kids and I talk to them about what I'm doing, half of them don't realize that. I'm like, who would you rather be? You want to rather be the basketball player that buys the Rolls Royce or the person that owns the dealership that sells it to the basketball player? Which one? And then they're like, oh, I'm saying basketball player. I'm like, no, 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 no. You
No,
want to
you
be
want to
the
be the
guy that
dealer.
owns
Yeah.
the dealership
Yeah.
that because that basketball player, he's buying a depreciating asset. You're
Mhm.
getting money and you're creating money and value off of that person buying from you. What
Yeah.
we have to do is change and be instead of being the person that's always buying as a culture, we have to change and be the person that's actually selling and being able to provide and get that money back into our community. That's where my money keeps. That's why I started getting capital and started growing as a business and continuing to grow as a business. The second part is, I think, to your question, is investing in those individuals like the banker and the financial advisor. It takes money to make money.
Mhm.
Okay, it definitely takes money. It You need to spend money on a good financial like person or a good accountant. You don't want someone just that works. It may be a great. You just got to research them, but you got to make sure that they come. If they don't care about the reputation they have, then they're not the right person for you. Reputation. I tell people, reputation is the biggest thing. And I'll tell a client today. I said, my reputation means more than you. And they were like, what? What does that mean? I was like, well, let me tell you why. Because if I am keeping my reputation and I want my reputation to stay strong, then for a fact that I'm going to do right by you as a client, because I don't want to damage my reputation. I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to do my job right. Right? That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to do a job and do it correctly, and I don't want to tarnish that reputation. So you have something else that will allow you to feel comfortable in utilizing me as a company. So there you go.
Very good. I do want to post one question from
Yeah.
our viewing audience, and I think you know her.
Okay.
Miss Lacinta Lewis Ellis says, "Hello, Brunson." And you probably already answered this, but I want you to answer it very quickly again. Do you give back by mentoring other up and coming contractors?
Yes. So I learned a lesson a long time ago, is that it's a lot of money in this world. And if I'm going to hold back and not mentor another contractor thinking that they're going to take money out of my pocket, then it wasn't my money in the first place. Okay. So I'm like, I've did a job 2 years ago. It was an $8.5 million job for FDA. And, the contractor that worked with me and I mentored on this was TPM Group, Lincoln Tyson from TPM Group. Not only is he a fellow Aggie, but he worked with me, and we actually did this project, and we both brought experience to the team. But he had never done a project that large before, right? So the idea for us to team together and do that, I mean, it's groundbreaking, right? Because we don't realize that we can team together and do larger projects.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
for me, I don't have, if I'm competing against you on a project and you beat me, then great. I'm glad you got it. I'm glad you got it. And if you need help and understanding, yes. So I'm a open book when I talk to my subcontractors, and I talk to them about business all the time. And most of the time, when I say, "Hey, you talk to my guys about the job, but we'll talk about what's going on with you," right? And so we have sessions. We'll talk. I have a guy that actually is a subcontractor of mine, First Choice Masonry. His name is Corey Jones. He is uh, Corey owns First Choice Masonry and also went to A&T. So Corey and I talk about business all the time. So it's important, and it's important for me to actually work with other minority contractors and support them. And also, don't get me wrong, I've had some that I had to break away from. I know, but I had a conversation at the end to say, look, I hate the fact that we're doing this, but I'm gonna tell you this is not the right way of doing it. But I can't afford to allow you to. I'm trying to ride the wave and go in the right direction, and I'm happy to have you with me. But you got to do what you say you're gonna do, because if you don't do that, then you're gonna hurt both of us. So I preach it all the time, and I try to mentor. Lucinta, she's a fellow cohort of mine for 10,000 small businesses, Goldman Sachs, 10,000 small businesses. I actually she's a pistol. She does her thing. She's in Columbia, South Carolina, so I've known her for a long time, and she's a general contractor also, and a great businesswoman. And you look at it where that's something I recommend also to small businesses. The 10,000 small business Goldman Sachs is something that you should. It's free. It's free, and it helps you help you to do your business. Please go do it. Go take free classes. That's the one thing that we know that we end up doing is that the biggest thing, we may know our trade and know our skill, but then we don't know business. And if we don't understand business, we don't stay in business long. Okay. And one thing I learned out of there was, like, if you can't read your P&L and you can't look at your books, and if you don't know the language that your business is speaking, because that's what the bank is going to look at. So if the bank looks at it and you don't understand that it doesn't look good, or that it looks good, and the bank is looking at you and you're like, I don't know, you can't be in business. You gotta know your business. You gotta understand. And so I've learned a lot through that. And again, and I think we did that back. Oh, it's been a while, back in 2014. But still doing classes, still learning, still trying to train. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm doing classes also. I'm totally with you. And especially now with a lot of folks being at home, there are a lot of free stuff out there that you can
Yes.
do and tap into the professionals. So I just want to quickly remind everyone that you are watching a gathering place brought to you by the Gallagher Chamber of Commerce, and we have a very interesting show today. And we actually are over time, but I'm going to wrap this up in about 5 minutes here. But any last minute things, Dr. Cole, Dr. Reuben, that you want to share with folks as we face a new future in the economy here in the nation and also on a global scale? Any advice that you can share with us today?
If I would share anything with your listening audience, it would be to always think strategically, think with integrity, always, but think strategically about what is changing and what are the opportunities in those changes and what are the risks.
Yes.
Because those who are thinking a step ahead are the ones who are going to be ready when the step gets there.
Absolutely.
Very good. Very good.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, is there anything, as Dr. Reuben, Dr. Cole, that you want to share with us regarding your company? I have to mention that.
I've been talking, so I'll let Dr. Cole make the pitch.
No,
All right.
I do want to ask a question, and then I'm going to turn over the speaking about our company to Dr. Reuben. But I don't want to say, Brunson, thank you so very much for addressing as a practical matter, because a lot of times if people like myself speak, we speak with knowledge of some things that we're not doing right at the present time.
Okay.
But when you touched on the issue of getting your certifications, putting the right team of professionals together,
Yes.
making sure that you continue that cash infusion in your business, which for a while is going to look like that's all it's doing, is just devouring my cash.
Yeah.
and that you yourself look to continually be refreshed, relying on your people, very empathetic to what they're going through, that kind of thing.
Yes.
I think that that is absolutely invaluable information. I remember, and what's the name of the mentor that you said you had? Um,
The mentoring group, I
yeah,
do a couple of mentoring groups. I'm in
no, no,
mentoring
no,
command.
no. You have as one of the big minority contractors. You identified. Who did you identify
Oh,
as your mentor?
You got Guilford Construction and
Oh,
Henry Guilford for Guilford Construction. And
okay,
then you
well,
have Smoot Construction, and you have also Russell.
right.
Hmm.
I am more familiar with Russell.
Okay.
But I was going to say that I am going to sit back and watch, because you know how Kobe said that Michael Jordan was his mentor, but he wanted to beat the mentor?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm going to
Yes.
sit back and watch you
Yes.
ride the wave to the top and beat your mentor while
Well,
still loving your mentor.
I
I do
appreciate
like that toughness of attitude, and want to congratulate you on what you're doing. But the valuation of things, of all things, whether it is the certification
that. Hmm.
or it is the Goldman Sachs resource,
Hmm.
but that commitment is something that I think that the Gullah Geechee chamber is very privileged to have access to somebody who can speak so
Here we go.
definitively to those kinds of comments. And I'm going to turn it over to Lucy or Dr. or Marilyn.
Dr. Reuben.
I'm going to be, I would be very brief and just say and give you the short version. We like to think that our business, Strategic Keys for Educational and Economic Advancement, SKEEA, I guess you could call us the general contractors of educational and economic work. And we're proud to have a network of other experts upon whom we could draw from the Caribbean through the US on to South Africa. And we're interested in helping you solve your issues and address what is happening in educational and economic arenas. Thank you, dear members of the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Yes, they helping me solve my problems
There you go. There you go.
by coming
There
on
you
this
go.
show and giving their
There you go.
expertise. Thank you, Dr. Rupin. Thank you, Dr. Cole. Always appreciate you coming on and being with us. Monty, I'm gonna let you give us some advice to round it out, and then I have a couple of things to say before I end the show.
Oh, advice, huh? Woohoo.
Yeah.
All right.
You've given us a lot today. You've given us a
All
lot of
right.
good stuff today.
All
Mhm.
right. I see. I kind of, I think I put some things down here. I said here, make sure that everyone understands all your goals and what you're trying to accomplish. Let's see. Stay in front of the problem. Try to recognize what direction your industry is moving in. They're speculating that there will be a second wave. I don't know, but what does your business, you as a business owner, how are you going to prepare in order to make it through next year? So you got to think about that now. You can't wait. You can't wait. And just don't settle for just good enough. Just don't settle for that. There are others out there that will always be in your ear to tell you that you're too much. Make sure it's like, look, make sure before you listen to them, make sure you recognize and see if they have the same things at risk that you do as a business owner. Okay, because there's a lot of people that will tell you something in your ear that work for you and don't work for you, that will say things that like, why are you doing this? And they don't understand what you went through and what you're going through and what you have on the line and at risk. So just make sure you do. It's no problem to listen, but then also make sure you take and utilize it for what you know, that you know best for yourself, not just because someone says go that direction. So, and I'll tell you, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to grow as a try to continue to grow. Sometimes I surprise myself. I sit there and I go and I say, "Oh, I got an office. I've got all this going on." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, so it kind of hits you and you're like, okay, all right, well, then I got to get back in it and just keep it moving,
Yeah.
right?" So,
Yeah.
the idea is that, there's going to be good days. There's going to be great days. I have no regrets in going into business for myself. Obviously, having two other businesses, I must not, right? But at the same time, I really think that, you know, people do what you love to do, and that's key. Because I love construction, I love business, I like to make those, get those wins, and I like to make utilize strategy to go forward and say, hey, oh, this work that we did to prepare for this got us this opportunity. This project that we finished got us this opportunity. So that's
Mhm.
what so at the end of the day, do what you love, because then you will do it well.
Very good. That's
Mhm.
very good advice, and I hear some very familiar words in that I have also used. And actually, just good enough. I actually wrote something today, and I had those words in there.
Yep.
Don't settle for just good enough. Do
Don't
more
settle.
than good enough.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
That's
I
right.
actually do surprise myself sometimes. I get it when you said sometimes you look and say, "Oh, I have an office."
You're like, whoa.
Yeah, there's some boxes I've
Okay.
checked off, and I go like, "Wow!" That I kind of go like, "Wow, that's pretty cool. I did that." So very good. I want to recognize one person, and I want to welcome Charles Ann Button for finally coming on the show, A Gathering Place. I've been trying to get her on to watch my show, and she finally came on to say hello to her
There you go.
nephew, recognizing
Yeah.
her nephew. She didn't recognize her niece, but she did recognize her nephew. So hi, Aunt Chaza, and thank you for coming on saying hi.
Yes.
We got a lot of family members on
Oh yeah.
today, and we want to say hi to family for
Oh yeah.
coming on and supporting Brunson and supporting A Gathering Place. We really appreciate it. Unfortunately, I
Thank
can't show everyone, but of course, we want to thank everyone for coming in
thank you.
and viewing the show. And next Wednesday, we're going to have starting a revolution, grow your own garden. We're featuring some master gardeners who are coming on. They've been in the business of growing community gardens for a few years now, and one actually owns her own grocery store. She's growing and putting that food right into that grocery store, and we're going to bring them on and talk about start a revolution, grow your own garden. And that'll be Wednesday at 4 o'clock. I want to thank again once again, thank you, excuse me, Dr. John Cole for joining us, Dr. Lucy Reuben, and Mr. Brunson Cooper
Mhm.
of CORENIC Construction Group for coming in and sharing his story. I told him he's a role model, and he
Oh Lord.
is, because he's from the area, and I know him, and he is a role model. And
Thank you.
we all
Thank
may
you.
not be making
Thank
40 million in revenue, but it is a worthwhile goal to try to get to, and even do,
you.
as
Thank
you
you.
say, you're mentoring someone, and they one
Yes.
day might be bigger than you are.
I
But
hope
that's a
so.
good thing.
I
That's a
hope
good
so.
thing. Yeah,
I hope so.
even in the midst of this coronavirus, we
Yes.
all have opportunity, and I
This is
hope
the
that we
time we
all
start.
recognize it.
This is time.
Yes.
Yes,
This is the time things come out of this that will change the world.
very true,
Yes,
very
sir.
Yep.
true. I totally agree with that. So
Yep.
once again, Dr. Reuben, Dr. Cole, and Mr. Cooper, thank you for joining us today,
Thank you.
and thank you for
Thank
viewing
you.
A Gathering Place. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next time, everyone. Good
Thank you.
night.
Bye
Good
bye.
night.
Bye bye.